The story begins with us finding out that the son of a very wealthy American businessman, Pat, is ill with a disease so mysterious that even the doctors have failed to diagnose it. With all avenues exhausted, they turn to Korea for help and call upon the shamans, those who can communicate with souls while still living in this world. These individuals solve people's problems related to the unseen entities in this world. One could say that meeting, fighting, and controlling unseen things is their job. We meet Shaman Haram, who arrives with her assistant to treat the child. Although the child's mother did not believe in such things, they had no other option left to save their son. Haram performs some rituals to check the child and finds out that the issue with the child is connected to his grandfather or great-grandfather. To discuss this further, Haram visits Pat's home, where she learns that the family had completely shifted to America decades ago. Pat's father, i.e., the child's grandfather, is paralyzed, while the great-grandfather died 100 years ago and his grave is still in Korea. Pat also tells Haram that every eldest child born in their family faces a similar issue. For example, his older brother also died from a mysterious illness, and now his son is suffering, as you can see. After listening to everything, Haram reassures Pat that everything will be fine, but they will need the help of more people, as the problem is quite significant. They might even need to go to Korea. The scene cuts to Korea, where we meet a man named Kim. He is a feng shui expert, whose job is to find places for the deceased to be buried so that their souls can rest in peace and not have any problems. If the souls are troubled, they tend to disturb their families. For instance, an old lady had started to appear in her family members' dreams and disturb them. However, according to Kim, the issue was not with her grave but because her grandson had hidden her teeth, which made her angry. Once her teeth were returned, the problem was resolved. Afterward, we see Haram meeting Kim at the same graveyard. Haram tells him about Pat, a very wealthy businessman, whose family has a strange issue. Every eldest son born in their family falls ill. This problem is connected to the land of Korea because their grandfather is buried here. Haram needs Kim's help to solve their problem, and as soon as Kim hears the name, Korea, he agrees to help. The next day, Pat also comes to meet Kim because he needed to perform an exhumation for his grandfather. Exhumation means opening a grave and relocating the buried person to another grave. He needed all the information from Kim for this task, and he was doing all this for his son's treatment. Pat takes Kim to his grandfather's grave, which was on top of a hill. It wasn't a cemetery, and there were many foxes roaming around the grave, which was not a good sign. Additionally, there was no nameplate on the grave. Pat explains that his grandfather was a general and this grave was allotted to him by the army. Kim still couldn't understand why this particular place was chosen as it didn't even look like a proper tomb. He realized that the problem was with this location and discussed it with Haram. He told her that there was a lot of evil, a lot of demonic presence, and he could sense these negative powers. Kim also refuses to work there because he felt that working there might endanger their lives. This worried Haram as well. Later that night, Haram, Kim, and Pat meet again, where Kim shares that his daughter is about to get married soon, which makes Pat emotional. He tells them that his son is dying. His words made both Haram and Kim emotional. Therefore, Haram decides that she will help Pat and tells Kim that they can dig up the grave and perform a ritual there. A ritual that would distract the wandering spirits and make their work easier. Kim also liked this idea and agreed to the plan. The next day, the exhumation work begins. Pat's aunt, who was the daughter of the grandfather, was also present because the grave couldn't be dug without her signature and permission. Haram had brought all the necessary items for the ritual, which included 5 pigs to be sacrificed for the 5 people digging the grave. As the grave digging work started on one side, Haram began performing powerful rituals to distract the evil on the other side, with many people assisting her. With loud singing and chanting, Haram performed a trance dance, playing with knives and swords. In the process, she even cut her face and then drank the blood of the pigs tied nearby. Her trance ritual continued until the grandfather's bones were unearthed. After the bones were taken out of the grave, a worker found a snake with a human head inside the grave, which was a very bad sign. Worse still, he killed it without informing anyone. As soon as this happened, the weather turned bad. Kim, who had decided to cremate the grandfather's bones, had to stop his work. They wanted to do this quickly because they believed that the grandfather's soul was attached to the bones and could only find peace if they were cremated. Since Kim had seen a lot of negativity there, he went to the village to gather information about the grandfather's tomb. Upon investigation, he found out that most people didn't know much about the tomb, and those who did knew that it was filled with riches. Tempted by greed, a man who learned about the grave being dug up opened the grandfather's coffin, resulting in the release of the enraged grandfather's soul. This was the most significant and dangerous event that had occurred. Fortunately, Hiram saw him, giving some hope that she could save everyone from this danger. She starts performing a ritual to control the grandfather's soul, but it might be too late because the grandfather's soul had already reached his home in America, where Pat's family lived. Upon arriving, the spirit kills his son and his wife, and then starts haunting and frightening Pat. Pat was extremely scared when he received a call from Kim. On the phone, Kim explains that the grandfather's soul has been freed, and it has killed Pat's parents and is now coming to kill him. He warns Pat to be very careful. While Kim is still on the phone, there is a knock on the door. When asked, it turns out that Kim is at the door as well. This confused Pat because Kim was also on the phone with him. The Kim on the phone tells Pat not to open the door as it could be the grandfather's soul. He advises Pat to be careful and mentions that he is coming to help him soon, but he can open the window. Following Kim's advice, Pat doesn't open the door but opens the window instead, allowing the soul to enter. This reveals that the grandfather's soul had orchestrated the entire setup. The soul was talking on the phone pretending to be Kim, while the real Kim was at the door, coming to save Pat. When the real Kim gets the hotel staff to unlock Pat's room, he finds that Pat is completely possessed by the grandfather's soul. In the possessed state, the grandfather's soul tells Kim why he is targeting his own family. During the war between America and Japan, the grandfather had betrayed his own people to earn a lot of money, which allowed his entire family to move to America and prosper. However, they never came back to check on the people they betrayed, nor did they visit or pray at their graves. This betrayal and neglect were the reasons for his immense anger. In front of Kim's eyes, the possessed Pat kills himself. As he is dying, Pat tells Kim that a big animal, like a lion, took out a fox's bone, but Kim doesn't understand what this means. But now, after killing Pat, the grandfather's soul was heading to kill his daughter and Pat's son. The only way Kim could stop him was to tell Hiram to burn the grandfather's bones. However, to burn the bones, they needed the permission of the grandfather's daughter. Kim immediately calls her and explains that the grandfather's soul is now going to kill the innocent child, and to save his life, they need to burn the grandfather's bones instead of reinterring them in another grave. The daughter agrees, and the grandfather's bones are burned. As the bones burn, the grandfather's soul is destroyed, freeing everyone from his terror. However, the story did not end with the grandfather's soul. There was still a major twist. After the grandfather's soul was gone, Kim meets the man who had dug up the grandfather's grave. The man was being tormented by dreams of large snakes with human heads. Terrified, the man tells Kim that these snakes are going to kill him. When Kim asks since when this has been happening, the man replies that it started when he found the human-headed snake inside the grandfather's grave and killed it by cutting off its head. To uncover the truth, Kim returns to the grandfather's grave, where he finds the dead snake, whose head looked like that of a female, considered highly evil. Without thinking much, Kim digs deeper into the grave and discovers a standing coffin underneath. Seeing this, he immediately calls Hiram and her team to the site. Together, they manage to pull out the coffin, but they still couldn't understand why this coffin was placed beneath the grandfather's grave. This coffin was sealed on all sides. Since it was midnight, they couldn't do much with the coffin, so they decided to store it in a nearby temple. They were concerned that there might be an evil spirit inside that could easily escape. Therefore, Hiram performed some strange rituals with herbs and rice to seal the coffin before they left. To uncover the mystery, Kim and Haram visit the grandfather's daughter and ask her why such a large coffin was placed beneath the grandfather's grave. She responds by saying that the grandfather couldn't have been a traitor because he wasn't even Korean. He was actually Japanese. This adds more confusion as to why the Japanese buried him there. The scene then cuts to Haram's assistant, who is being frightened by something strange. Reciting some mantras to control his fear, he goes to check the coffin. Outside, he sees a figure about 7 feet tall eating a human. Terrified, he calls out to Haram, who is having a dream where she learns something from her grandmother, a powerful shaman of her time. Hearing her assistant's voice, Haram starts to leave, but her grandmother grabs her hand as if she had seen a great danger. Despite this, Haram rushes outside to her frightened assistant. Together, they find the coffin now open and empty, indicating that the 7-foot man or ghost seen by the assistant had emerged from it. Inside the coffin, they also find a helmet, which belonged to a samurai or a general. They realize that whoever was in this coffin was indeed a samurai, a soldier. Meanwhile, the general who had emerged from the coffin arrives outside the room. Seeing him, Haram hides. The general asks if there is a human in the room. Haram replies no, saying she is a servant of humans and a tree spirit. The ghost of the general then asks if she has his favorite food. Apologetically, Haram responds that she does not. The general realizes that there is indeed a human inside the room. Before he can attack Haram, her assistant arrives and saves her, attacking the general with a spear. However, the attack has no effect on the general, indicating that he has become a very dangerous ghost. The general grabs the assistant, stabs his hand into the assistant's stomach, and tears his body apart. Before the ghost can harm Haram, Kim and his sister arrive. The sight of the ghost horrifies them, as they have never seen such a ghost before. A second passes, and the ghost hears a rooster crowing, indicating that morning is near. Realizing this, he transforms into a ball of fire and flies away. For now, these people had learned so much that this ghost, whatever it is at full strength at night but cannot use its powers in the morning. It became evident that the ghost had torn apart Haram's assistant from within. His breath was still ongoing, meaning he hadn't fully died. Consequently, he is admitted to the hospital, and Kim now goes back to that same grave where all this started because now it was crucial to end this story. Here they meet people around, learn something, but specifically, these people don't know anything. Then again these people come to the hospital where they come to know that Haram's assistant has regained consciousness. When he came in, his eyes were strange, and seeing this, Haram and Kim came to know that he was possessed by the ghost of that big journal. He had made him his slave, and from his head they came to know that he was the ghost of the journal is protecting something here. Haram's assistant does not tell them what. To find out all this, Kim goes to the grave again. He wanted to open the grave and find out the answers to his questions. What is it here that the demon was protecting? They see only the 7 feet tall ghost of the journal. Seeing this, they come to know that no matter where this ghost goes at night, this ghost remains here during the day. Of course, to protect that thing about which they do and know. Standing here, Ekam remembers one thing about the dying park. He had said that fox has attacked the spine of the tiger. The map of Korea is exactly like that of the tiger. Whether it looks like a tiger or not, it has become Korea. Now the scene was that to destroy Korea, many metal rods were pressed into the ground, which according to Japanese ritual would destroy Korea by disturbing the positive and negative energy of Korea. The Koreans came to know about these roads and they started taking out these rods. The people of Korea called these people grave thieves, but now they could not take out one road from the ground because the Japanese had used that road for their general's body. Was buried in India through a ritual in which the body of a brave dead person is cut and a metal rod is placed in it, and along with it many human organs are also used. To complete this ritual, the entire process is known as janal. The body of the general was used because the general was very brave. Even after his death, his soul would protect this road. Now the journal, which had become a ghost and had that metal rod in its body, Its coffin was made vertical because all the other rods attached to it were also standing vertically. Now no one could find that rod or the body of the journal. Grandpa's body was buried on top of it because he was also a journal. To put it plainly, when the Koreans and Japanese during the war, people tried to use magic mantras to defeat each other. As soon as these people got the news of all this, it was too late. Now it was night time and it was time for the journal, which had a metal rod inside it, to wake up after so many years, and it was only because of Kim that it became free from its coffin. Kim wanted to stop it, but this ghost starts possessing it to save Kim. Here Harem also throws blood on him, but he recovers after a little pain and in anger goes to fight Harem, but at this time Harem is protected by his grandmother's soul Kim, who inserted a metal rod in Janar's body. Had seen it, and according to their fans' knowledge, he was the enemy of the journal. The ghost of the journal was also yearning for blood, so without any hesitation, he applied his blood on a stick and stamped the journal with it, due to which the journal dies. That last rod which was planted in this land to destroy Korea, that rod also comes out and gets destroyed, meaning on one hand they have eliminated their biggest problem, this ghost, and on the other hand they have also recognized Korea. As soon as the ghost dies, Harem's assistant, who was in his position, also comes out from there. Thinking that all these people were now safe, all four of them give us a sigh of relief. At the end of the story, Kim's daughter. The wedding of Kim is shown, where Kim looked relaxed and she was joined by a team in the form of Harem and her assistant. The story concludes here by showing all four of them. I hope you have liked this movie recap. Please like, share and subscribe for more real recaps.